So as we were exploring Henry Coe and watching all of the amazing birds as we were walking through the forests and through the hills of the park, we got to see a really great variety of both residential birds, birds that are present all year round, as well as some of our migratories, which can be a little bit trickier to find, in part because they're a little bit better at hiding, but also because some of them are only present for a couple of weeks or a few months out of the year. As the name implies, they're migrants, so they're just either going to be passing through our area or they might only spend a season with us. So part of the residential bird list included our acorn woodpeckers, who we heard pretty much the entire day. They make an complete racket in terms of noise. They're always chattering back and forth to each other. They're incredibly social. So they really become a cornerstone to the soundscape of a place like Henry Coe. But we've got some quieter residential birds that we saw, the red-winged blackbird. We got to see the bright, brilliant blue of western bluebirds flitting around on the top of the hills where there was far less tree cover, but there was lots of grass that they were hunting in. At this time of the year in the spring, the males have donned fresh plumage, so they are at their brightest blue. It's very eye-catching. We got to hear brown creepers hiding amongst the trees, and we just saw little flickers of their wings as they moved up and down the trees. We got to find chestnutbacked chickadees who were chattering up a storm as we walked by, likely a little bit alarmed because we were probably walking by their cavity nests hidden high up in the trees. We also got to see a juvenile bald eagle, which is a great treat and is more of a recent sighting for us here. In the past 5 or 6 years, we've seen a resurgence of bald eagles in our county. It's incredibly special to be able to find nesting bald eagles, to know that they're reproducing successfully in our area. And it does mean that now when we look up into the sky and see a big dark bird, we not only have to question whether or not it's a turkey vulture or a golden eagle, but we also have to double check to make sure it's not a juvenile bald eagle that hasn't come into its bright white tail and head feathers yet. So it was a really great treat to just be able to see all those residential birds. But as I mentioned, we got some migratory birds as well. We got a Pacific slope flycatcher, which is a dusky grayish green little bird that's a completely ferocious little hunter. It's a little bit smaller than a sparrow, so what it's hunting is a little bit less dramatic than what our eagles and our hawks are snagging. But they are very ferocious if you're a small winged insect. And we also got some Hutton's Vireos that just flitted across the path right in front of us. They popped up into a bush about 2 feet away from me and then zipped across the trail and disappeared into the tree canopy. These are really exciting birds to find, but we're relying mostly on our ability to hear them in order to identify them or even just know they're present, because they are very small. They're kind of a drab olive green. And while they're not great at sitting still, you're still looking for very small flickers of movement up inside of a tree canopy. And if it's a day with the slightest amount of breeze, it's pretty easy to mistake that movement for leaves in the wind. So it's one of those great challenges you always find as you're birding an area like this, that there's always more to find. You can very easily stand in one spot for 20 minutes and still not be certain that you've found every possible bird in an area. We certainly spent a good portion of the day chasing down turkey calls. We're always around the corner or further down into a valley behind just massive barriers of manzanitas, or more oaks or rocks. We could hear them. So that was one of the real treats, is just being able to use all of our senses possible to just experience what was around us.